It is Monday, November 18th, 2019, and it's time for the Monday News Brief. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Monday News Brief brought to you by CDTTV, a part of the Central Dakota Times. I'm your host, Nate Iverson, and this week we're hosting Chamberlain School District Superintendent Dr. Deb Johnson. Dr. Johnson is going to be giving us an update on some of the things going on in the Chamberlain School Board, as well as some of the activities, events, and other policies being reviewed in the school district as a whole. She's also going to be touching base on the South Dakota Report Card and breaking down some of the things that Chamberlain School District performed well on and not so well on, and their plans to improve that as well. Also, if you enjoy this content and want to see more of what we have to offer, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Central Dakota Times newspaper, like us on Facebook by searching Central Dakota Times, and checking out our website www.centraldakotatimes.org. And as always, be sure to pick up your very own copy of the Central Dakota Times every Wednesday morning wherever newspapers are sold in Central South Dakota. Let's get to it. It is Monday morning, CDTTV. We're here again with Dr. Deb Johnson. Deb, thanks for joining us again.
You're welcome.
All right. It's a little cold out, but we made it.
Yes.
It's all good. It's warm in this room.
Yeah. Cleaning off those school cars gets to be old.
Oh, God, I bet.
You come and you got to scrape and move snow, and it's all good once you get in.
There's no button start?
Not on ours. No.
Oh, right on. Those are the handiest things ever.
I know, but we don't have those here.
All right.
Maybe the next vehicle.
There you go. So let's touch up on some top secret board stuff, eh?
Okay.
All right. Let's start off with some good news. The board was given an award. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, they were given the ALL Award, which means to act, learn, and lead. The ALL Award.
Okay.
And they will now we'll put the plaque up, but the reason they received the award is because of the training, the meetings, and the webinars, those kinds of things that they attend to become better board members. So we're having a training at the end of November also. So I just like to keep the board informed and ready to always be learning and being trained, just like our staff and many people do in their work.
Sure. So we're always getting better.
Right.
Always improving.
Always improving, always getting better. And it was nice we were able to take a picture of the board last night too, so I always like that.
A little recognition goes a long
Yes,
ways.
yeah.
Great. And then talking about some other, just reporting on stuff. The South Dakota Report Card came out, I guess it's been about a month.
Right.
And you've had some time to kind of look at that.
Yes.
And in that, I know we touched on math and science scores were lower than average. And English was, I looked at the official score, it was fairly well. It was very well above average.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was kind of a standout was the college readiness. That was kind of a negative on there. Can you maybe touch on, now that you've had a month, touch on each one of those and kind of identify what maybe is going wrong or what's going right and what can be improved?
Yep. Well, for our English language arts, we had our title director, Tammy Brown. She talked with the different grade levels and asked them, what are you doing that's making language arts do so well? So each grade level gave her a response back. But in summary of that, I guess I could just highlight a few of those. At the high school level, they have a unified vocabulary program that they use, so that helps. Mrs. Long and Mrs. Donovan have what they call the ACE method, which is answer, cite, and explain. And anytime students can explain, you know that they are getting it, or they're letting you know how they get it. Multiple choice practice, because that's similar to what they will be seeing on Smarter Balanced. And then they also have an SLO project every year, which is student learning objectives. And they look at the Smarter Balanced assessment, see what standards were low in that would benefit most students from being retaught, and they go ahead and they do that. And as a lot of people know, in elementary, we have Walk to Read, and that has really gained a lot of legs, I guess you could say, but the staff are really believing that that is part of what is happening at the elementary, because students are met at their level and they progress from there. And the teachers are continually seeing where they're at and moving them to different levels.
Sure. What is the Walk to Read exactly?
Well, students are placed at the level that they're at to read.
Okay.
And they may go into a different classroom, but the teacher focuses with that group where they're at. And then they move. The teachers are so great about looking at the data and seeing where kids are that they can move them into a different level upwards, Or if they need to have some reteaching, they'll go ahead and do that. But
Sure.
it's more of a specific eye on every single student.
Gotcha. So it's kind of more data driven now, as
Yes.
opposed to just
Yeah. And it's really proving to be very effective.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good.
And in the math area, right now we just haven't figured that out. We have a math curriculum that we're looking at meetings. In fact, one of them is this week, the other one's next week. But we are really looking at our whole programming for math. It must not be meeting something in the Smarter Balance testing, which really should be related to our standards.
Right.
So we're taking a good look at that. We don't have an answer for that. The science, there's really not another assessment to take a look at, but our science is different than what it used to be, because it's a lot about discovery and students doing research and trying to figure out where they're at, and also doing some of the basics too with the formulas and atoms and all those different kinds of things that have to do with chemistry. But we're moving in the direction of the standards, and sometimes I think that those don't match up real well with a test that students are given for 2 days.
Right.
Yeah. And then the last thing that you mentioned was college and career ready. Just continually working on that. That encompasses so many different areas.
Sure.
And just trying to reach that graduation point of 100% graduation rate. If we have 1 or 2 students that don't make it, then they're considered dropouts. But I can tell you that we have several students who have finished through their GED program.
Okay.
And also the students that come back and will graduate in December. And we don't publicize that, and we don't make a big deal about it outside the school, but we make a big deal inside the school. And a lot of times parents will come up, we'll have pictures, those kinds of things with the student with their diploma. So those things are getting done that nobody sees. All they see is the 84 or the 89%.
Right, it's just a number, right.
But we continue to encourage students to continue their education, get that GED, get that high school diploma, because that's your ticket to everywhere else.
Right. So I know last month too you were also talking about the academic excellence and graduation rates in the strategic plan. Did this lead to any adjustments in that so far?
Oh yes, we've redone that whole section.
Okay.
And so the board last night approved the changes that have been made. So the next time it goes out, it'll go out with all the correct changes on it. Because the board has been talking about several different areas, not just the academic one, but we were able to plug in the numbers and put it where it needed to be.
Are there any maybe big bullet points on that you could share?
I don't think so. I guess I really like how the board approaches the strategic plan, in that we look at a different section every month. So there's no shockers all the time.
Right.
We just take a look at it, and we know where we're at with our testing, our academic excellence and graduation. We're always just trying to improve.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And let's also, I know we're just talking about college readiness and other parts of the plan. You also had the Native American Parental Advisory Board? Is that the official term?
Yes.
Okay. They met at the last board meeting in Crow Creek regarding, just to address some of the issues that parents and Native American children may face. Did they bring anything up to the board at that meeting?
Yes. Some of the things that I did highlight from last time were, of course, they wanted to talk a little bit about the English language arts and the math proficiency for Native American students. We also talked about there are all kinds of additional assessments in the district that staff members use to see where students are at. And so I think that helps people become a little bit more comfortable, knowing that we're watching engaging students as to where they're at, but we always have to give the test. So we give the test, but that's not the only thing that we use. They talked about communication, student participation in activities, and we're right now under the review of the Indian policies and procedures that we need to do.
Okay.
And that's a policy within our school board policy book, and working on setting up a meeting with the Crow Creek the council or the president to review that policy also. And we'll let our Native American Parent Advisory Group know. And if they'd like to come along, they'll be welcome to do that.
Okay, so is this a fairly new policy then?
Well, it's a policy that we've had for every time we fill out our Impact Aid application, we have to go through it.
Okay.
But a year ago, they made a lot of changes at the federal level. And so we had to redo a lot of our policy to match what the federal guidelines were.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's all good. It just states what we do.
So moving on from some of the older business, there are some new policies being reviewed by the board and adopted in the district. So you just had some first readings for some school government things, the opioid antagonist project, resignations, procurement, and the food service conduct.
Yes.
Can you maybe run through the gamut of all those?
Sure. The school governance, it's quite a large section, but the policies in it are small, and it just talks about running the school.
Okay.
And I don't think that there will be a lot of changes there, but like with the Indian policies and procedures, what's in the policy needs to be what we're doing. So I want to make sure that those are right. And then I'll make some necessary changes that I think, and then the board takes a look at them, and then we always go 3 times for those first readings.
Okay.
Or for those policies. The administration of the opioid antagonist, that has to do with the Narcan project that's in the state. So if someone has an overdose, we're able to administer that to the student or whoever it might be if they're in the building. But we have to have a policy for it, and right now our school resource officer is the person who we go to.
Okay.
And he's pretty much here all day long. So we, as administrators, would have to have training, which I know where it is. We have the document that needs to be signed, so we'll go through that too. Resignation, we just wanted to be sure that when a staff member resigns, that they let their supervisor know and the superintendent. The policy now states the superintendent should know, but we want people to tell their supervisor first.
Right.
And then the superintendent. And procurement and food service code of conduct all have to do with our food service program.
Okay.
And Michelle, our business manager, went to a recent workshop, and she was able to pretty much put all of it together at the workshop. So she brought that back to the board. So those are totally new. We've never had them before.
Okay. So are there any standout changes in any of those, or?
Not that I'm aware of. When something's new, you just have to make sure you read it carefully so you know what it is, so you do what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then let's run right into principal reports.
Okay. Well, each of the principals always highlights their area.
Sure.
Positive behavioral intervention supports is big this year. We started that program this year. We've been to several trainings. The elementary staff took quite a bit of time yesterday at our early dismissal to put their program together at the elementary. What do they want the rewards to be for the students? How do you approach parents with the behavior that you're seeing in their child?
Mm-hmm.
What are some things to talk about there? And Amanda also highlighted that she and several of her staff members just recently went to a national conference, and she'll be highlighting that a little bit more next time.
Okay.
And then Jeff went through some ACT numbers and information for the board.
Gotcha. So ACT looking good in Chamberlain?
I think right now we're looking at this senior class as being most likely their scores are showing a little bit above the state average.
Oh, sweet.
In the past, we've been a little bit below and just trying to figure out where we need to go with that. But when you're looking at ACT scores and you do the average, that is such an individual scoring, because that test means a lot to students.
Right.
As juniors, it has to do with scholarships, class rankings, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into college, because you have to have an 18 minimum to get into a college. So there's a lot riding on the ACT. So for me, when I see an ACT average score, I want to know individually how kids are doing. Are they going to be able to do what they want to do with the score that they have?
Sure.
And so that allows us to take a look at overall programming in our school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then we'll wrap it up. Superintendent report.
All right. We talked about congratulations to Blake Went, Kelsey Hartman, the cast and the crew for the Clue.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to see it, and I really enjoyed it. I had one scene in there where I couldn't stop laughing because I thought it was just so funny. So evidently they did really well with that. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. Kids really enjoy being in the fine arts plays. And also thank you to Carissa Vanderlei and students for their work on the Veterans Day program. It was well done. I started to ride the bus routes. I always ride every bus route twice a year. So I've started that. I'm half done, and I like those. I like to know where the students live. I get to visit with them on the bus a little bit, and when the students are off the bus, I always take time to visit with the bus drivers and just to see what's happening on their bus or if they need anything from us as administrators. And then the board did have an executive session last night, so
Okay.
after that they approved a volunteer boys basketball coach for Steve Nelson,
Okay.
special education teacher, a new position in our district. And then I did submit my retirement resignation last night, and the board did accept that. So I've been able to tell the staff, the administrators and program directors, and that'll be effective at the end of the school year or my contract, which would be June 30th.
Sure.
But the board will be taking a look now at who will be filling the position.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about covers it all. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't. But thank you. I appreciate us being able to talk about the district.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, Dr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Nate.
Hey, thanks for sticking around and joining us for another edition of the Monday News Brief brought to you by CDTTV, a part of the Central Dakota Times. If you enjoyed this video content and want to see more of what we have to offer, please check out our website, www.centraldakotaTimes.org. We're also available on YouTube at Central Dakota Times Newspaper and on Facebook by searching Central Dakota Times. We'd love to have you become an online YouTube subscriber and drop us a like on Facebook. Until next week, I'm Nate Iverson, and have a good one.